Hi, so this is Sean from Time and Talk. I thought today I would make a video about one of my latest acquisitions, a full review of the Orient Mako 2. So, first of all, I thought I would have a little bit of a think about the history of the company. So, Orient dates back to around about the turn of the century, so about 1901, and it became a separate company in 1950. It's actually owned by Seiko Epson, which is one of the subsidiaries of Seiko, obviously, who own the watch company. And first of all came the Mako 1, which was obviously the first edition of this watch, which is, as I've just said, the Mako 2, and that came in 2004, and essentially it was the first version of this, so it wasn't hackable or hand winding, it wasn't ISO certified as a dive watch, so then they updated it in 2016 to a hackable hand winding watch. I forgot to mention as well that the first version had a date button here, and that was how you changed your date. So there was two kind of crowns, which gave it an interesting look, but it was a bit of a weird choice, I guess. Perhaps that made the movement easier to manufacture or something like that. So the specs of this watch, it has the F6922 movement, has a 40-hour power reserve, 21,600 vibrations per hour. It's got a mineral crystal. It's 41.5 millimeters in diameter. It's got 22 millimeter lugs. You can get it in black and blue, and I think there was a Pepsi version of this watch as well, and it's 200 meter water resistant. So it's clearly a very nice watch, especially for the money. I paid £104 for this. I think it was 104 on eBay. I'm not even sure what the retail price is, to be honest, but I think it's over 200, and you'll never pay the retail price for this. I don't think you'll be able to get one for much cheaper. But I just picked it up off eBay because primarily I'm into Seiko divers, and I thought I'll have a go at Orient because people are very complimentary about them, and I've seen them online, and I just wanted to try another brand. In terms of the movement, the claim is that this movement can keep to minus 15 plus 15 seconds a day. Hit me in the comments if you found different to that. I have. A bit strange, really. I haven't measured it in terms of using a timergraph or anything fancy like that, but all I do when I buy a new watch, I set it to a reference clock and then check it 24 hours later. This was out by miles. I'm talking, a minute, maybe two, and then it seemed to not gain as much the next few days. So the movement isn't anything to write home about, in my opinion. But that's one of the things that I think is a bit misleading about this idea of in-house movements. An in-house movement's all very well and good, but if the movement itself isn't any good, then what's the point? In-house movements versus ETA. If you set up a brand new company tomorrow and decide to make an in-house movement for your watch, ETA have been making movements for decades, so they're going to make a better movement than you probably. In terms of this watch, I think the main competitors to it are the SKX or the Citizen ProMaster, which I'm going to check out at some point as well. I've been wearing it for a while now, for a couple of weeks, and I must say that this watch isn't really my cup of tea. I'm not sure why. It doesn't really do it for me that much, but I'm trying to present here a relatively objective review. So it's clearly a nice size. The other diver that I have, the Samurai that I've just bought recently, that's 44 millimeters. So it's a lot bigger, and the size is less versatile and things like that. This is more of a traditional size, 41.5. it's better than the SKX in terms of the size. You know, the size of the SKX is slightly too big for me, but this is not so big. The quality is really good on this watch. I mean, for the price of £100, you're getting a solid watch with the bracelet's, you know, fine for the price. The bracelet feels solid. It feels weighty in your hands. The bezel is, I mean, if anything, it's a little bit too solid. It's a little bit too stiff for my taste, but you know, the quality is definitely there. If you see, I am obsessed with dive bezels. When I get a dive watch, the bezel has to be perfect in order for me to not, you know, stress out about it, if you like. This watch lines up perfectly and the bezel's really good, so that's a really good plus point. You know, there are brushed and polished surfaces on the watch, and the sides are polished and most of it is brushed. So that's, you know, good in terms of quality for a watch at this price. This is an in-house movement, as I've said. You know, in terms of the cachet of those things, you know, the movement I haven't found to be that accurate, but you know, in terms of the price, it's absolutely fine. The bracelet is more substantial in the SKX, but I mean, I like the Jubilee bracelet in particular on the SKX, so you know, it's nothing that sways me particularly towards this watch. In terms of the design, one thing that I would say about this watch is it's a little bit like a Submariner. I mean, you know, black diver, steel case, relatively understated. The design is kind of it doesn't jump out at you. The design, it's quite conservative and quite understated, which, if that's what you're looking for, is absolutely fine, absolutely amazing. But personally, I do tend to like the Seiko designs a little bit more. They just seem to me to be a little bit more interesting. A black dive watch as well. I mean, you can't fail to compare it to the Submariner, and it just doesn't really do it for me. I mean, tell me what you think in the comments if I'm being unfair. It's a really nice watch. It's really good quality for the price, but I just find myself not really wearing it all that often, to be honest. I think if you're looking for an everyday watch that you can wear for pretty much any occasion, that's good quality, and you don't really want something. I mean, Seiko's designs are a little bit more out there, a little bit more zany, if you like, a little bit more modern, then this might be perfect for you. I mean, you can wear this probably with a suit, you can wear it for work, you can wear it, you know, diving, obviously, you can wear it while you're playing sports. It's probably technically superior to an SKX. You know, it feels more solid, you know, in terms of the bezel. I mean, I've never had an SKX bezel that's as good as this. But I just don't find it doesn't do it for me as much as this Seiko does. So, in terms of pros and cons, pros, the price. So, I mean, SKX is 200 quid nowadays at least. Apparently they've been discontinued as well, haven't they? So that'll only rise. This was £100, so half the price. Arguably, you're getting a technically better watch for that price. It's versatile. You know, it doesn't jump out at you, the design, so you can pretty much match it with anything. Decent quality, as I've said. You know, I'm not knocking the quality of it at all. 200 meter water resistant, and it's a good size. I mean, pretty much anyone could wear this. Pretty much any man, or woman, obviously. In terms of the cons, I've not found it to be that accurate. I mean, I'm not bothered about that. And I pretty much, when I've owned an SKX, for example, I've never bothered to time it and to see how accurate it is, because that's not why I bought it. But that's something you might want to know. And the design is a little boring, a little safe, a little kind of traditional, which is good if that's what you're looking for. I mean, I'm wearing an Explorer, and that's why I bought this Explorer. But in terms of a dive watch, given the fact that I've got an Explorer, I wanted something a bit more interesting. So, like I said, I mean, I do like this watch, and I'm not kind of slagging it off as such, or belittling the quality that you get from Orient at such a decent price. But those are the sorts of things that you probably want to know if you watch these videos. So in terms of this, I'll show you it on my wrist. I have a 6¼ inch wrist, and this I think wears pretty well on my wrist. And you know, if you've got a larger wrist than me, obviously you could wear this as well. So yeah, tell me what you think of this watch in the comments. I'm trying to not be unfair on the watch. I mean, I'm probably just going to sell it straight away, because it doesn't really do it for me, but I can really appreciate the quality that's there. Tell me what you think. Also, tell me if there's any other dive watches from around this price range that you think, you know, could be a competitor to this or the other ones that I mentioned. If you like my channel, please subscribe, and thanks very much for watching.